our adventurer makes his way to the Arcanist Guild to ask the guild receptionist, Mary, what they are all about. Arcanists study arcane geometries, intricate patterns that draw forth and manipulate the body's etheric energies into specific magical effects, a skill valuable enough to secure positions of power within the governance of Limsa Lominsa. Admiral Merwell herself ordered for the guild to be established to ensure the Arcanist teachings would be passed on. Believing himself a logical and capable man of reason, our adventurer joins the guild, but the guildmaster is nowhere to be found. Instead, an interim guildmaster, Mistress Tubergame, presides over his necessary duties until the guildmaster deigns to return, introducing the basic concepts of Arcanima, which is to wield the arcane entity Carbuncle and to calmly strategize in the heat of battle. With a new grimoire in hand, the adventurer is tasked to attempt some of the etheric manipulations on the wharf rats, ladybugs, and Aurelii that plague Lower Lenosia. With the deed done, the adventurer formally joins the Arcanist Guild, with his newfound friend Carbuncle at his side. After further practice with Carbuncle, our adventurer is tasked with inspecting several crates at the cliff south of Zephyrgate. With the crates analyzed and the creatures hidden within dealt with, our adventurer notices he is being followed by someone, who then proceeds to both praise his efforts but also point out room for improvement in his performance. This is none other than Clejia, Melvin's Gate assessor, whose job is exactly the one that was simulated through this training exercise, to inspect and record incoming cargo on behalf of the Lamentin governance to ensure all laws and import taxes are accounted for. Clejia proceeds to question the fledgling Arcanist, seeing in him a flicker of their true guildmaster, the man who had given her the grimoire she herself uses, which has been with her since the very first day she joined the guild. Eager to practice the tactics she conceived while watching, Clejia bids the adventurer goodbye as he returns to Tubergame to report on his recently completed task. Tubergame is greatly pleased with the adventurer's efforts and cannot help but note what a brilliant Arcanist Clejia is, even though she is concerned that Clejia might be stuck in her grimoire a little bit too much and not enjoying life to the fullest. Regardless, with his simulated inspection done, now comes time for the real one, with the fledgling Arcanist accompanying Forseer Clejia on one of her inspections on the wares of a goblin peddler caravan run by the Boylestocks family. Various Melvin's Gate agents suspect they might be dealing in forbidden goods, which could lead to physical confrontation when dealt with. Should this occur, the adventurer should employ combat pattern stratagem focus fire, with him and his Emerald Carbuncle focusing on a single foe. Locating the caravan in the vicinity of Cookpot within Middle Enosia, the goblins predictably did not want to surrender their goods for inspection and proceeded to put up a fight. With the Forseer's guidance, the adventurer executed the various stratagems flawlessly, and the goblin traders were subdued. The Forseer points out she was able to provide the stratagems based on the observed talent of the fledgling adventurer, and that he too would be wise to learn his own strengths and weaknesses in order to assess the best course of action in battle. While awaiting for the productive unit of the city, the Yellow Jackets of Limsa Lominsa, to come and apprehend the peddlers, Clejia remains by the suspects while the adventurer returns to report on his successful inspection. After some time passed, the adventurer returned to share of his recent practice, to learn that the acting guildmaster would like him to assist Clejia in another inspection, this time while boarding a trading vessel suspected of smuggling. While examining trading vessels is a routine daily task, if those are smugglers, they are more likely to result in resistance. Clejia requests the adventurers to learn the ways of Topaz Carbuncle for defensive techniques, expecting it could prove useful if things were to go awry. The adventurer agrees, ready to take on any task, and asks Tubergame to help him learn of Topaz's capabilities. However, even with the defensive arcane entity's assistance, things could prove rough against smugglers. As such, the Arcanist Guild hired 2 mercenaries, Geisfrain and Erstota, whom they had worked with before. The vessel is to be found in Elport, and the team gathers outside to prepare for their strategy, the adventurer going first by himself to see if they will submit to an inspection peacefully. However, there were indeed thugs at the ready, but they were quickly handled. The steersman, wanting no part in this, moves aside so that our adventurer and his crew can proceed. However, knowing that their thugs failed to report, there was a possibility that the suspect ship could decide to throw their goods overboard prior to landing. Because of this, the group borrowed a small boat in the hopes of landing on the ship while still at sea. Of course, they were not willing to be submitted to an inspection so willingly, first suggesting for the group to come back another day, but Clejia would not agree to those terms, demanding to see the cargo right away. The crew of the Morning Star readied their weapons, and resistance was all but guaranteed. However, Clejia was able to guide the adventurer to a past carbuncle, their healer, and their marauder to take down the resistance. As Clejia approached the cargo hold, the door was opened wide and she was pushed back. A figure appeared, and Clejia cowered in fear. Her fear was so great, she was powerless and could no longer think, as the figure picked up her grimoire and threw it into the ocean. Realizing they would be short their tactician, the group picked her up and fled to their small boat while they still had the chance to do so. With their mission failed and Clejia still affected by whatever torment tortured her within, the adventurer had but no choice to report back to Tubergame and learn of the pirate Duzmaga, who had been exiled from Limsa some years back. For the Foreseer, that man is a nightmare in the flesh, having been hurt and held captive by him in the past. She would need some time to recover, if not physically, then at least mentally, from revisiting those past memories. However, when the adventurer returned sometime later to check on her status, he learned that she had disappeared and none had sighted her yet. The acting guildmaster requested some assistance in the matter, with the search starting in Hawker's Alley, if any passers-by perchance might have spotted her. Indeed, a Lalafell named Dotozan had talked to her, or rather been drilled by her regarding a Kikir and smuggling ring, but the Yellow Jackets had taken her away. Following up in the Coral Tower of Limsa, Gin out of the Yellow Jackets admitted they had taken her in for information regarding the pirate Duzmaga. They had already released her, and it was quite likely she would be back at the Arcanist Guild, as she had also managed to get some information from the Yellow Jackets during their questioning. However, she was still not back. Knowing this, Tubergame revealed what kind of man Duzmaga was. He was a pirate dealing with the worst possible type of smuggling, a slave trade, who would keep dozens of abducted people crammed into squalid conditions. Clejia had been one of them, and her rescue is how she met the guildmaster, and the grimoire he had gifted her back then was the very solace she had needed to overcome her fears at the time. Thinking on this, Tubergame realized that there had been rumors about a Kikiran merchant of ill repute who had retrieved some goods the Morningstar had thrown into the ocean. Perhaps the assessor was pursuing this lead in order to get her grimoire back. The adventurer returned to Elport within the hold to see if they had the alleged Kikiran in hold, and sure enough, Clejia was there. Although the Kikiran merchant was not present, another Kikiran prisoner confirmed that he had indeed seen the grimoire. Although retrieving a personal grimoire could not be considered official business, Clejia very much still wanted her prized possession back, and so an unofficial plan was formulated to ambush the disreputable Kikiran as Oshuan's Embrace. Arriving at Oshuan's Embrace, it does seem that the acting guildmaster and her longtime mercenary friends from earlier were ready to assist on this personal endeavor regardless. When the merchant, who goes by the name of Kikiran, appeared, he sent his own mercenaries on to fight in his stead. However, they succumbed to our adventurer and his group, and thus the grimoire was recovered. Clejia arrived and realized that, while it was indeed her grimoire, it had been irreparably damaged by the seawater. With this profound loss, Clejia left defeated. Although the battle had been won, the victory did not feel sweet for her friends, as they witnessed hope fleeting from her gaze. However, Tubergame did think of a potential way to lift her spirits. What if they located their absent guildmaster? She shared with the adventurer his last known location at Memorune's trading post in Upper Lenosia. After talking to some of the nearby visitors of Memorune's trading post, it seems the guildmaster, named Tia, had been visiting a nearby scholar who goes by Tonga, who had actually been left a message to pass on, should anyone be looking for the elusive guildmaster. Reunited, the 3 slips of parchment hold the problem to the solution. And it just so seemed these were concealed among the bones of the sallows. The adventurer searched profusely and located these parchments, but could not read them. He brought them back to Tonga, who thankfully was able to read ancient Allegan. Seek the box at Fool Falls. Dance a jig for your wooden audience. Claim the secret from the open heart. Although the demand seemed ridiculous, the adventurer did comply and located a wooden box at Fool Falls and proceeded to dance to it, and was able to open it to another riddle. The adventurer returned to Memorune's post and proceeded to dance, once again as requested by the messages. And finally, from an upward cliff, Tia showed himself. He had heard of the new adventurer and figured someday they would meet. As a reward for partaking in his silliness, he rewarded a grimoire and suggested it be passed to Clejia. The adventurer returned to Limsa and located Clejia in the anchor yard. One of the conditions for the grimoire was to first provide her a dance as well, and the adventurer couldn't help but follow these orders to a bemused Clejia who reasoned that he must have meant the guildmaster. Handing over the grimoire, finally Clejia could be seen happy again, as the grimoire was identical to the one she had previously cherished. With her resolve restored, Clejia realized she needed to shape her own reality, and that required defeating Duzmaga. The Yellowjackets proceeded to locate his merchant vessel, which was anchored off the coast of Bloodshore. Getting close to Duzmaga would be difficult, but Clejia had already thought of a plan and left instructions for the adventurer to speak with a fisherman by the name of Rilzarin in Costa del Sol. After a few errands, which included delivering a herring to a cook in order to get a pie to give to the nearby master Gegaruju in exchange for a coin purse, only to receive a message to provide the coin purse to a dancer who would give the adventurer a satchel to keep for later and a piece of clothing. The last item was then traded for some wine, which was of such high quality that the crew of the Morning Star invited the adventurer to come aboard later, along with some new dancers. Looking closely, one of those dancers seemed to be none other than Clejia herself. Boarding onto the small boat, the two prepared to be brought over to the vessel. Clejia requested for the satchel, which contained a robe. The sailor navigating the boat became suspicious, but she explained that she merely wanted to keep warm while at sea. Finally, they reached the pirate vessel, and Clejia revealed that the satchel had not contained just the robe, but her real clothes as well, and she had sneakily put them back on while the sailor had not been looking. With newfound confidence, Clejia faced Duzmaga. She prepared a magic circle for shielding that she and the adventurer could use while facing off against Duzmaga's goons. With them taken down, the pirate realized he had to get involved, and his more personal sailors as well. Still, Duzmaga Poisonheart was no match for the adventurer and Forcier Clejia, and in an attempt of desperation, he jumped off the starboard rail. However, the Forcier was prepared and had already planned for the Yellowjackets to be available, who were quick to surround him. Finally, Duzmaga was detained and Clejia's tactics were victorious. However, she realized that this victory was earned by relying on the adventurer's skill in battle, and any deviation could have led to failure. It is not enough to wish to shape reality through strategy, but to also have a complete and full understanding of what that reality should be. It was time for her to seek out the guildmaster for her own ambitions, and so she too jumped out the side of the ship. However, another boat with the dancer Elgith, who had helped orchestrate the entire operation, was nearby. The two of them sailed away onto Clejia's next adventure to train her own battle prowess under the direct instruction of the guildmaster. The end. I do hope you enjoyed this storytelling of the Arcanist questline. It is a story about bracing your fears and learning to grasp exactly what you need in order to make your wishes come true. But yeah, I do believe that marks the end of this Realm Abridged storytelling. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to let me know what the Arcanist questline means to you in the comments, and if there are any stories you would like me to cover next. A big thanks to all of you for joining me down memory lane within the world of Final Fantasy XIV. My name is Squintina, and I hope to see you all again soon for more Final Fantasy XIV story. Do feel free to share this around to the people you know who love this game just as much as we do.